We've had some technological difficulties of late. 2 weeks ago, a service that I recorded with Alan Brown about artificial intelligence and art didn't fully stream. So tonight, we're going to stream the totality of that service. So if it looks like you've seen it before at the beginning, you've seen part of it, but not all of it. So here's the entire service, and I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Robert Barr, and I'm pleased you're joining me and one another for this streaming Shabbat service. This is a chance for us to pause, to catch our breath, to think about where we've been, and to think about where we're going. For the days flow into one another without interruption. Time races on. The Sabbath is our means to divert time, a stepping off point, pausing with friends and loved ones to observe, then rejoice in the wonder-filled coincidence of living. There can be a sense of pleasure in every given breath, blessed with taste to savor and warmth to give and to receive. Bestowed with gifts of sight and sound, we are obliged to cherish and revel in each smile, in every musical note. The Sabbath also awakens us to the silence between notes. It speaks of contemplation, the quiet delight of literature, of unhurried walks, of rare conversations. The Sabbath can be our interlude, our ritual pause in this lively current, our signal to step more lightly, to appreciate more profoundly, to dive more deeply into the questions that life is asking. Again, I'm Rabbi Robert Barr of Congregation Beth Adam. That's our bricks and mortar congregation here in Loveland, Ohio, part of Greater Cincinnati, and our Jewish community, our online initiative that we began about 13 years ago. We went online recognizing there was an opportunity to stay connected with members who moved out of town, to connect with people who may have learned about us reading an article somewhere that they wanted to experience what we were doing here. During the pandemic, it became more important, and now we've recognized that maintaining a presence online and having streaming services like this allows us to connect with people literally around the world and to know we're part of something greater than ourselves. We're part of a community. But this is the technology. It's a tool. What's most important is the voice that we give expression to here at Congregation Beth Adam, a bold, dynamic Judaism. That's what we've been doing for over 40 years. We recognize we're not like our ancestors. The events of history have shaped our vision. We have information that they never had access to. And it's incumbent upon us to create a Jewish experience reflective of that, incorporating what we know, the knowledge that we have, the insights into the way we give expression to our Jewish identity. That's why we rewrote the liturgy, wrote a liturgy that's reflective of who we are rather than reading liturgy that is reflective of who our ancestors were. And then we engage in conversations like we're going to have in a little bit about artificial intelligence. We are trying to explore what it means to be a person living in the 21st century, knowing that the children who are in a religious school here are going to be living into the 22nd century. We need to spend more time looking forward than thinking and reflecting only about the past. We need to worry less about our ancestors, and we need to think more and worry more about our descendants, knowing that we're going to give them the best that we have to offer. So you're part of that with me this evening. So I'm delighted you're sharing this service. Now, you can chat with one another. That's one of the opportunities you have online. So be welcoming and inclusive. Let us know where you're participating from. And the other thing is you don't need to watch the service at 7 o'clock. So some people are watching live at 7 and some people watch it whenever it's convenient. That's the beauty of being online. It also means I can record a conversation like I did with Alan Brown, who you'll see in a bit, earlier, and then bring it into the service. It allows for more flexibility than we have when it's a bricks and mortar service only. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're sharing this Shabbat with me and with one another. And now we light the Shabbat candles together. The candles of Shabbat stand before us, waiting to meet the flame, longing to share their warmth, ready to shed their light. Like those who came before us, like all people, we must find comfort and fear in flame, endless swirl of fascination, mystery and awe. Like those who came before us, like all people, we are graced with the desire and the will to understand. So we continue our ancestors' search for answers, pushing away the darkness of ignorance. The flames they saw as magic and beyond comprehension became flames of knowledge and hope. But still we look with wonder, inspired by their beauty and power. We embrace the flames of Shabbat. We embrace the light, our vessel of mystery and understanding. As we light our Shabbat candles, we celebrate our journey, our quest, our moments of peace. May the light of our people shine. May the light of Shabbat cast its warmth in our homes. May these candles burn with respect for all who push beyond the bonds of ignorance, for all who seek justice, for all who build community. May these candles burn with memory of all who came before us. May we draw on the many ways our people have given voice to their ideas and values. And may we add our own insight to the glow. Baruch ha'or ba'olam, blessed is the light within the world. Baruch ha'or ba'adam, blessed is the light within each person. Baruch ha'or ba'Shabbat, blessed is the light of the Sabbath. As I mentioned earlier, I've had a recorded conversation with Alan Brown, member of Beth Adam, past president of Beth Adam, and an artist, and we talked about artificial intelligence. This is something that has entered technology and really is changing the way we live in so many ways. And that's why I thought it was an important conversation for us to have. I hope you find it as fascinating to listen to as I had having it with Alan. I am delighted that Alan Brown, a past president of Congregation Beth Adam, is joining us tonight for a conversation that's a bit different, something that we haven't yet delved into. AI, artificial intelligence. And Alan got into that whole world as a function of art. So Alan, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And before we talk about artificial intelligence, can you talk a little bit about your journey as an artist, both from your early days, your teens, really, I guess we'd say, all the way to today? So what's that journey been?
Well, it's certainly been an interesting one. I started out with my first darkroom at age 13, my bar mitzvah gift. And that kind of launched everything for me. I had my first job in photography at age 14 and really never turned back, although I went to college originally as a pre-med in electrical engineering, which has nothing to do with my passion. Mm-hmm. And I realized that my passion was where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So initially I did photography, and a lot of it was black and white photography, made my own prints and all that kind of stuff, and started getting into more interpretive photography. So I was never good at shooting scenics. I was never good at shooting portraits per se, but things that interested me were tone, texture, detail, composition, those kinds of things. So that was my original starting point.
Right.
I started my own photography studio with two partners in 1981, and we did that for 11 and a half years. And in that time period, I really explored the idea of special effects. And for me, special effects were combining images, processing the film differently, those kinds of things. And they weren't achievable just by taking a picture. Mm-hmm. So there was more depth to it, which I found really exciting. And in 1985, when Apple released its Mac, I was smitten. Mm-hmm. I didn't know where it was going to take me. I'd like to say that I did.
Right.
But I knew it was going to be interesting. And started down that road.
Before we get down that road, so let's stick with photography a second. So those of us in Cincinnati may have seen some of your photographs.
More than likely.
Can you tell some of your photographs appeared where? I mean, for those.
Well, during my photo studio days, I shot a lot of Cincinnati posters. I shot 16 years of opera posters, 5 years of ballet and symphony and pops, and 8 or 9 years of the Concours d'Elegance car show, and various other things like that. So I think I can lay claim to being the most prolific poster maker in Cincinnati.
Okay, so there was that piece of it. So that was so let's say your first iteration, photography as an art form. So then in 85, this computer shows up on your desk, or I guess you went out and purchased it. I'm sure it didn't just show up on your desk. And you looked at it and you were intrigued by what its capacity was. And where did that take you?
Well, I would say in 1985, it didn't take me very far in terms of capability because there really wasn't that much creative that I could do. Now, it's true since about 1960, maybe even a little earlier, computers have found their way into art, mostly at a collegiate level. And it was in repetitions of patterns, it was graphics, it was things like that, but it really wasn't fine-tuned until Photoshop came on the scene from Adobe. And once that came on the scene, the whole world opened up to actually a lot of us. I would say that at the very beginning, I was one of a really small handful of people who thought there was something here that I could learn and take advantage of. And really, after about 4 years, it was no longer a novelty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, clients never thought it was going to blow up or disintegrate or whatever they thought.
So you moved from photography to creating images on the computer. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And that was we call that graphics, I guess. Is that what you call that?
Well, it depends on whether we're talking about my work life or my personal life. Mm-hmm. My work life was graphic design and web development. I had a firm that did that for 32 years. But in the meantime, I was still exploring my own thing, which was seeing where I could go with computers, seeing where it might take me with photography. And so I started experimenting around quite a lot. And the last, 5 or 10 years, I've been doing a lot of illustration work that doesn't have any photography in it whatsoever, but looks very photographic.
Mm-hmm.
It's using 3D software to allow me to make objects, arrange a scene like I would photographically, light it like I would photographically, and then render it, which is taking the picture. And at that point, I decided what I had was a combination of photography and illustration, and for lack of anything better to call it, I called it illosography. Now, that is a term I invented.
Okay.
Nobody else that I know of has ever used it other than when they're showing my work.
Okay. So that was those images you created, and now you're in this new thing. So that was phase 2. Phase 3 is AI, using artificial intelligence to create art. But before we talk about how you do that, could you just tell us what AI is? So a lot of people hear about it, but may not know what AI is. So how would you explain that?
Well, in general, it covers a lot of territory. There is a lot of software coming out using some of that technology to be able to produce results. And it involves, I'm going to use it more simply.
Yeah, please.
To create a database of images, or in case of things not relating to art, other kinds of details, and then allowing you to ask the computer to do something with it.
So,
In the case of art,
go
go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
In the case of art, it's a little bit more specific. And there have been outcries from people about why it's a bad thing and
Hmm.
all of that. And those are typically the technophobes or the people who studied art with different tools.
So, and what's happening with AI, this whole world of artificial intelligence, it's no longer just computers sort of yes no question. These really it's creating ways for computers, for lack of a better word, to think. So some of us are probably already interacting with AI. If you're on a website and there's a help button comes up and they say, "Can I help you?" Oftentimes you're actually interacting not with a human being, but with a computer. That's more than just a simple computer. This whole thing of the artificial intelligence, there artificial intelligence now is being used to help computer programmers to write code. Just recently, it helped. I can't think of the name of the particular program. Helped to solve a problem in the world of medicine dealing with proteins, considered one of the big advances. So AI, it's really pushing. A lot of us interacted with it or learned about it in sort of dystopian science fiction, but it really is part of us. And now it is part of the world of art. And how, before you show your image, so I have before AI, you'd sit down and you'd sit at a computer and maybe a pad and you'd draw images, or you'd import images, or you'd say, I want the site. You were really creating there using your hands and using code and things like that. How are you now creating images using AI?
Well, let me backtrack for a minute, if you will. So there are people that are saying that AI is not legitimate. Mm-hmm. It's not legitimate art, whatever that means, and so on and so forth. And there are questions like, well, who created the art? Was it the computer, or was it the person operating the computer? And if that's the case, let's just say for sake of argument, you decide the computer created it. Well, then who owns that piece of art? So these raise some very interesting questions, but I have to say they've already been discussed ad nauseum. For instance, when photography first came out, it emulated painting. People did portraiture, people did landscapes, and there were lots of people saying this is not legitimate art because you push a shutter, the camera is producing the art, you're not. Mm-hmm. Now that kind of went away over many years, and photography is now a legitimate art form for most people. Right. There's some people that hold out. And I would say that AI technology really falls in that same category. I view AI as nothing more than a really good tool.
Okay. But it's no longer, so how do you, before you created an illustration manually, it was with your hands and your mind, obviously, but you physically, it went from your ideas, you went and you sat in front of a computer and manipulated images or drew images and typed in things to make the computer do things. How, when you create the illustrations or the images you're going to show us in a moment, how did you create them? Did you draw pictures, or where did the image come from?
Okay, so the technology currently is based on words you feed it. So you come up with what are called prompts, but basically it's a description of what you're trying to accomplish.
Could you show an image, and then and maybe that'll help people understand an image that you created using prompts, words, rather than manipulation. I think this is for many of us, this is a totally new way to imagine how art is being created. To think that an artist would talk to a computer or a computer program, and then it would generate an image. So how did you create this?
Okay, so as I said, this technology relies on prompts. And I am still learning how to do prompts to get more control, but prompts essentially allow me to tell the software what direction I'm going in. And as I get better at this, I hope to be able to tell the technology, put this here, put this here, put this here, and make it green. I'm not quite there yet, but I've been able to get some interesting results. So I had to describe a can with an Egyptian eye on a table, on a yellow table, with a window in the background. And I think I said a backyard for this. And I also pick the time of day. And I also pick, and this is the interesting part to me, I can choose to assign different styles of art to the prompts and get very different results. So, for example, I don't remember exactly who I referenced. And the other thing is I found out that you can reference more than one artist. And so I can hopefully get the best of everything. This would probably be a combination of Rene Magritte, who is a surrealist, along with Dali, who also was a surrealist, along with Edward Hopper, who was more of a realist, actually. And there might have been somebody else thrown in for good luck.
And so I want to make it just to understand a little bit clearer for myself. You just said create a can with an eye on it. And then the computer generated this. And you said, well, I wanted to have a window and I wanted to have this. What are we looking at here?
Okay, so I'm a fairly methodical person when I'm trying to figure things out. And I didn't do this at the very beginning, but it soon became necessary that I created a Word doc with all the prompts that I'm using. And what I would do is input a word prompt, see what it did, go back to the word prompt and make some variations. So you'll see the two word prompts right above Midjourney. Midjourney is an AI software where I'm saying oil painting in diffuse colors. So that kind of sets the stage for the texture of an entire metal bucket sitting on a blue kitchen floor with a yellow floor scrub brush on the kitchen floor with brush bristles pointing up and with no handle on the brush, a window looking out to the backyard, late afternoon, wispy clouds in the style of Rene Magritte and Edward Hopper.
And then you walk away and you come back and
it's actually fairly quick.
Okay, well, I just okay.
Yeah, so I let it do its thing, and then it outputs the image.
So this, if you stop sharing, so we can see each other again, that'd be great. I appreciate you sharing your text with us. So really, it's a whole new.
By the way, that's becoming a well-guarded secret. The text.
Really?
It's very interesting.
Because the better you get on with the text, the more interesting the image becomes, and people don't want to share their tricks with each other.
That's kind of like what it is, and I'm not finding. Robert, where do I find the thing to turn off the sharing?
It's usually at the top, Alan. You're right.
Okay, let me see if I can. Again, I'm technologically savvy but limited.
So this is where learning one program doesn't mean necessarily translate to the next program. So to me, this is a whole world. For many of us, we're interacting with artificial intelligence in the backgrounds of our lives. We don't realize that it's there. Now it's taking a sort of a different direction, or it's a direction that we didn't necessarily know, which is really it's creative now in a way that is unexpected. And I know because I've been reading about it, there are people who are prompting it to write, and AI programs are actually writing now poetry and things like that. And it's creating its own poems based upon the prompts. And here it created its own art based upon, or it created art based upon your prompts. And as you get better at the prompts, or more knowledgeable about the prompts, and be able to drive the program and the AI to function, you create images that are unique and stunning.
Right. And I have to say, what's the most exciting for me is I'm able to explore imagery in a way I've never been able to before.
Oh.
And part of that is because if you gave me a pen and a piece of paper and told me to draw a house, I would be very challenged to be able to do something meaningful in that way. And the computer in general has allowed me to really explore what I know and what I can do. And AI technology has taken it even further.
Wow. Well, this is fascinating. I really appreciate you taking time sharing with us this image. I got to wonder if in 10 years, there'll be AI programs that rabbis turn to write their sermons, that we say, Rosh Hashanah, meaningful, one or two jokes, less than 12 minutes, and something else. And all of a sudden, out comes the program or the sermon that some rabbi will give. I have to imagine if I just thought of it, somebody else is already working on it.
Oh, it will, I'm sure, come in some way, shape, or form. But I do want to bring up one issue.
One last issue. We're going to end in a second.
Okay, which is one of the negatives about this technology, as I see it, and a few companies have tried to address it, and that is the evil players out there that do nefarious things, take heads off of things and put them on other things. That's already being done.
Oh, right. Yeah. This is the manipulation of
right. So learning how to be responsible. Some of the AI companies have built this into their software where they look for things like naked or any sense of violence or anything like that. And they actually will not produce that image.
Okay.
And you do it enough times, they'll lock you out. But then there are other companies that said, that's really up to you personally to decide where you want to be. And we don't feel comfortable dictating that kind of thing. And so the door is open.
Okay. So that technology is always the issue of those who use technology or tools responsibly and those who don't. And this is going to be another area where we're going to see that happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I'm intrigued by it. And I'm glad we were able to share some time talking about this new pushing the boundaries of art as well as pushing the boundaries of computers. So thanks so much.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Our conversation was just a taste of how artificial intelligence is transforming so many aspects of our lives. I encourage you to continue learning more about it. Perhaps in the future, I'll have somebody else that we can discuss this important issue with. Because here at Congregation Beth Adam and our Jewish community, we're just not spending time talking about what our ancestors did. We spend time thinking about where we're going and the decisions that we need to make as modern people. And we continue our service. May I discover the ability to feel the pain of others, work for others, among others, and there come to feel a part of that to which I belong. May I discover the ability to sit alone so that I can go out of doors each day among the flowers and the trees, among the birds and all that lives beneath the sky of stars and planets, and there come to feel a part of that to which I belong. May I discover the ability to sit in silence so that I may hear not the voices of others, but my own voice, the beat of my heart, the sound of my breath, the utterance of my soul, and here come to feel a part of that to which I belong. Now, if you have some juice or some wine, please share with me. as we celebrate the fruit of the vine and the bounty of nature, as we lift the cup. For we are part of nature which gave us birth and continues to sustain us. Even as we depend upon nature, so do we influence its course. To search for understanding and gain the knowledge to shape our world. Guided by the best of human wisdom, the compassion of our spirit, we accept the responsibility which rests upon us. May the taste of the wine upon our lips stir within us a reverence for nature and a respect for human endeavor. Bruchim chachayim ba'olam. Blessed is the life within the world. Bruchim chachayim ba'adam. Blessed is the life within each person. And we say, l'chaim, to life. So I'm glad you joined me and one another for this service tonight. The best way to find out what's happening at the congregation is to go to our website, bethadam.org. There you'll find information about upcoming services, adult educations, whether it's a Sunday morning program or a midweek program. And then you'll learn about those things that are going on here at this congregation here in Greater Cincinnati, but a congregation that has a reach that literally wraps around the world to anybody who wishes to join us through the vehicle of the internet. So glad you were here. I'm glad that you can be part of this special community. As the secular year is drawing to an end, we do ask that if people may consider making a donation to our institution. It helps us continue what we're doing, whatever amount you can donate. Some have already, and we appreciate that. If you're considering it, you can go to bethadam.org, and there you'll find a button near the top that says donate. So I hope you would consider doing that. We appreciate the support we've been given, and we also value the support that we will be given, because it will help us continue the work here at our congregation. And we end with the words we end it each week. May we know blessings those who are far. May we know blessings those who are near. May the sharing together bring goodness to everyone soon, wherever they are. May we know blessings today, and may we know blessings the night. May health be for our children and for all people, and all things soon be right. May we know blessings at our comings, and may we know blessings when we depart. May we live each day with peace and wisdom in each heart. Ken Yehi, let it be. Shabbat Shalom.